Hey, I'm Jay the Dev Guy, and note taking is, unfortunately, as life changing as the influencers say it is. If you're naturally skeptical of anything the hustle bro, horoscope girl, philosophy major type preaches about, I totally understand. We're in enemy territory here. Don't worry, just for you, I'll mention video games a few times to keep you engaged and feeling safe. Like most things I've learned to love, I too was once a skeptic of this place. But if you've ever wandered these parts and tried to take note-taking seriously, you've run into the biggest problem the habit has. Tinkering and organizing your productivity system instead of, actually using it to be productive. You've found yourself here in the note-taking rabbit hole. It's vast, it's deep, and there's genuinely some gold around here. But it's a pretty scary place for beginners. It's littered with buzzwords like para and Zettelkastens and Kanban and Scrum and OCR and Emacs. It's everything I love and hate about the internet. A community of enthusiastic nerds who care a lot about something, but one that's been min-maxed, monetized, and turned into a self-serving esport that traps newbies in an endless cycle of inadequacy. So, how did we end up here, and why on earth are there so many opinions about something as seemingly self-explanatory as note-taking? Okay, don't worry, I'm talking about video games now. I've been making an indie game in between uploading to this YouTube channel, and I found myself switching between programs with the most inefficient routine possible. I would spend a couple months in Unreal Engine for game development, then take a break and spend a couple months in Blender so I could make a video. By the time the video was done, I'd switch back to game dev and forget so many basics about Unreal Engine that I'd have to Google solutions I know I'd already found before. And I do the same thing for Blender, searching desperately for that one specific forum post that actually solved my problem. I was looking for a needle in the haystack, and after doing this so many times, it felt like I was just putting the needle back into the haystack right after I'd found it. So I started to do something I never did in school, taking notes. I started with just a basic little pocketbook, and it improved everything immediately. I mean, I didn't have to hunt for old forum posts more than once, sure, but I quickly saw how note-taking was benefiting every other part of my life as well. So let me know if this sounds familiar. I spent a lot of time watching educational content, telling myself that I was learning. But until I started actively taking notes on what I was trying to learn, I don't think I was understanding anything nearly as well as I thought I was. Because when I forced myself to articulate the lessons in my own words, it would immediately expose any gaps in my knowledge. Without that immediate feedback, I would have just kept consuming, not knowing I was building on an incomplete foundation. Feedback on your own understanding of something is really hard to get when you're working by yourself, and if I wasn't taking notes to double check my comprehension, I know I would have just laid back and kept consuming so I could pretend to be productive. So even though I was slowing down to write notes, it actually really accelerated my learning. And I hated being known as a forgetful person. People in my life would see me as kind of a ditz and a scatterbrain, and I can't exactly blame them when I forgot stuff all the time. But I think it really undermined how knowledgeable I actually was about certain things. And ever since I started taking notes, I just don't really forget stuff now. A great example that can improve your life is that I have a dedicated note for gift ideas for my girlfriend. Throughout the year, every time I have a thought or she offhandedly mentions something, I have a permanent record of it. And then every birthday or anniversary, I just have a perfectly accurate list of every little thing I've considered getting her, and I mean, this is the definition of a life hack. Do you have any idea how life-changing it is to not be stressed about gift giving at all now? I think it's hard to explain how empowering it is to just not forget the little stuff anymore. And hey, there's no better place to practice your new note-taking skills than the sponsor of today's video, Brilliant. Brilliant is an easy way to get smarter every day, with thousands of interactive lessons in math, science, programming, data analysis, and AI. It's designed to be super hands-on, letting you play with the concepts in a way that's proven to be much more effective than just watching video lectures. Because lessons on Brilliant can be finished in just a couple minutes, getting smarter every day is easy, and a lot better than the mindless scrolling most of us are trying to do less of. I recommend Brilliant's Thinking and Code course, which teaches the timeless skill of how to think like a programmer by designing and debugging real programs, building your intuition for computer logic, and gaining familiarity with real languages like Python. So, to try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/jthedevguy, scan the QR code on screen, or click the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription, so thank you to Brilliant for sponsoring this video, and back to it. So anyway, that's why people get so fanatical about note-taking. If they've experienced firsthand how life-changing this practice is, it's hard not to evangelize about it to a monetized YouTube channel. I'm well aware that that's what I'm doing right now. And if any of what I said sounds like it can improve your life, I really recommend starting with just a paper pocketbook to see if you like it. But my paper pocketbooks were starting to show their shortcomings. For a year-long project like a video game, it's inconvenient to have to search through multiple different pocketbooks. They're not easily searchable in general. Reorganizing lists requires completely rewriting them, and since most of my personal projects are digital, like game development or YouTube videos, not being able to link websites or images is kind of a bummer. My needs had finally outgrown my simple, unorganized pocketbooks. And I totally could have just fleshed out a system for more organized paper notes, but I decided to integrate digital note-taking into my life. And if you've ever Googled best note-taking app, I'm sorry. The note-taking rabbit hole starts there with an endless stream of suggestions and comparisons between programs, and ends with guides on how to build a second brain LifeOS Zettelkasten using the para method and Kanban task integrations, which is not something a beginner needs to worry about when they're just trying to make a gift list for their girlfriend. I'm well aware that I'm yet another voice digging that rabbit hole deeper with an unsolicited opinion about how you can force multiply your productivity if you just like, comment, and subscribe. And listen, I'm not even going to show you my workflow in this video. That's not the point. Like I said at the beginning, the biggest problem with note-taking is wasting time building your workflow instead of, working. And a lot of the advice here does encourage that destructive habit. And the poster child of overcomplicated programs enabling procrastinators to pretend they're hustlers is Obsidian. But everything you've heard about Obsidian is wrong. Okay, so what even is Obsidian? Obsidian is just a free text editor, like Notepad. That's it. Everything Obsidian does just reads from and writes to a text file on your computer. This has a couple huge benefits. Since everything is just text files, it's completely offline, private, and owned by you. You can open these text files in any other program, like Notepad, so if Obsidian disappeared tomorrow, everything in your notes would be safe. You can back up these simple text files yourself with something like Dropbox or Google Drive, though I'm really happy with Obsidian's official syncing feature for $5 a month. And these text files are tiny, which makes vanilla Obsidian super fast compared to its web-based competitors. Obsidian uses a lightweight standard called Markdown. It lets you add things like headers using hashes, italics with asterisks, and bullet points with dashes, that sort of thing. It's designed so that even if it's not read in a Markdown editor, those hashes, asterisks, and dashes still make your text files readable by a normal human, unlike something like HTML. Markdown is an extremely common open standard used by GitHub, Discord, Slack, and many others. So learning Markdown isn't wasting time learning Obsidian, since it's applicable in so many other programs. And again, since all of this is just written to a text file you own, you can open your Markdown notes in another Markdown editor and have all of your exact formatting. You don't even need to type in Markdown, by the way. Obsidian has menus to bold, italicized, whatever, using your mouse. But after taking the 2 seconds to learn it myself, I genuinely hate typing in anything else now. Formatting your writing without ever needing to stop typing is genuinely blissful. I'm not sponsored by Obsidian, by the way. This sort of evangelism is just what happens if you give a nerd who cares a solid tool that doesn't get in your way with enshittified crap. But what makes Obsidian truly special is linking. You can link notes together, creating your own personal wiki and allowing you to explore your second brain like a website. Writing with linking in mind is incredibly fun. I think it encourages you to really explore each topic and term in depth instead of one enormous run-on essay. But there's a hidden mechanic to linking that changes everything. You can create links to notes that haven't been made yet. They'll appear like this as a darker color. And this is a huge deal, because just glancing at a note will show me all of the related subjects I have explored and the ones I haven't. It basically gives me a little to-do list, and it does so without ever interrupting my writing. And finally, the thing that pulls it all together, the graph. The graph is everything people misunderstand about Obsidian. It's minimalist, it's functional, it's not just a self-indulgent distraction. In fact, I think it's the last piece that creates Obsidian's solution to the biggest problem with note-taking. The graph organizes and plans for you. I don't think people understand how big a deal this is. Just by writing and linking, Obsidian organizes your notes. Categories start to emerge. Trains of thought are drawn out. Connections between subjects are made. And because the graph shows you those links to uncreated notes, you can also see what gaps in your knowledge remain. All without wasting a single second planning anything. Its organization just works, which lets you just work. Like, let's say I wanted to take notes on animating in Unreal Engine in Google Docs. I want to stay organized, so I'd probably sort all of my notes into folders. Maybe I'd create a master life folder at the top of the hierarchy, and then one inside for game development. And inside that, I could have an Unreal Engine folder, which maybe I'll divide up into things like animation, programming, level design. And so I'll put this note in the animation folder, but maybe I want to save some general animation advice that applies outside of Unreal Engine. So should I make an animation folder under life now? Maybe I need a Blender folder too, since I have to remember to keep certain settings checked, but I can't keep Blender in game development since I use it for YouTube too. So, hey, notice how I just spent all this time worrying about organization instead of, actually working on anything? If I were taking notes in Obsidian, I wouldn't have had to worry about any of that. I could just type and trust the graph to organize it for me. This procedurally generated organizing, paired with a minimalist foundation, allows Obsidian to grow alongside your needs. Since it starts as a basic text editor that organizes for you, you don't need a 2-hour tutorial to get started. You don't need a 2-hour tutorial to get started. Stop watching and start writing. There's no need to plan for folder hierarchies, no guessing what fields in your master database might be needed in the future. No need to understand what on earth para is. Just write down cute gifs for your girlfriend and move on. I think this simplicity makes Obsidian the best note-taking tool for any beginner, despite its reputation. And if your needs ever outgrow this minimalist foundation, you can always add new features by browsing Obsidian's thousands of community-made plugins. And this is also how you can ruin everything. Don't get me wrong, community plugins are incredible. There's like 2,000 of them at the time of writing this, but they're also the reason Obsidian has its reputation as a procrastination simulator. With community plugins, you can make Obsidian do, basically anything. Encode geolocations to your notes and have them mapped out on Earth. add a word counter to your notes, connect Obsidian to other apps, play ambient music within the app, transform your notes into an auto-scrolling teleprompter, inject data from open movie databases into your notes properties, or add AI to enshittify Obsidian yourself. Listen, community plugins are genuinely an incredible feature of Obsidian, but they can encourage people to work on their tools instead of using their tools for work. And make no mistake, tinkering with your systems can be fun. Watching others' workflows can be entertaining, and it may even be a necessary evil sometimes. But it is not work. Personal knowledge management may help you work. I mean, it certainly has for me. But just trust me when I say that you can't consider it as actual, real work. Because listen, if you do, then you'll allow it to consume all of your time, since according to you, you're technically working. All without ever actually accomplishing whatever it is you set out to do. And this style of procrastination is so dangerous, because it's easy to delude yourself into thinking that you're actually being productive. You know, playing video games or watching anime when you're supposed to be working, it's obviously procrastination, so most of us feel guilty about it. But watching a dozen tutorials on how to optimize your personal knowledge management software, I mean, it feels productive, so we can pat ourselves on the back guilt-free without ever actually, working. And listen, just because you set the procrastination simulator to its hardest difficulty setting, it doesn't mean you're not still playing yourself. So my advice to anyone looking to improve their lives with note-taking is to start as simple as possible. No tutorial necessary. Then only increase complexity once your life proves that you need it. For most people, I think this just means starting with pen and paper. And if you're going digital, honestly, just start with the most basic app possible, like Apple Notes. Then once your life actually proves you need more complexity, then and only then should you scale up your workflow. Obsidian just happens to fit that advice perfectly, since it starts out so minimal and can be incrementally added onto with community plugins. I couldn't stand to see Obsidian get slandered online as a complicated tool, so that's why I made this video. I think because the heights Obsidian is capable of reaching are so high, the minimalist core gets ignored, and that's sad to me. Or the minimalist core is at least less content farmable. And okay, listen, I really don't want to come across as a hater for the note-taking rabbit hole. I deeply love nerds being enthusiastic about something that genuinely improved their life. And if it adds value to your life, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making your Notion templates aesthetic, or scanning your pocketbooks into your digital database, or becoming a clinically insane Emacs org mode user. I genuinely love those things, and love that there's content highlighting it. And if you accept that watching this content is not actual work and does not replace you actually getting things done, then hey, watching a lot of this stuff is genuinely super fun. It's so cool that people can work in so many different ways, and seeing examples of what others are doing can show you what's possible if you ever actually need to add something to your workflow. So I'll link some of my favorite videos in the description. I just know a lot of people watching will try note-taking by diving in and spending hours analyzing and pre-planning their system before dipping their toes into trying. And then they'll inevitably get burnt out because the workflow some nerd YouTuber uses is way more complicated than the baby steps that would actually improve their life right away. And that's kind of my target audience right now. My advice to them, which also applies to me, is to really try and only complicate your tools if the job that you're trying to accomplish actually needs it. And okay, before I go, I have to give an important update on the Jay the Dev Guy art commission bingo. If you don't know, the idea here is that if I can hit as many stereotypical digital art milestones with my Patreon commissions, then I could speedrun a thriving art career. I actually got my bingo in the last video that no one watched, but me and my patrons agreed that a true gamer would never quit before getting 100% completion. So if I can fill this entire bingo card with my Patreon commissions, then I'll throw them all a sad pizza party. This spot in the middle was for furries, which is the free spot, obviously. If you open commissions, you're gonna get furries. Fig and Zilch Fox have proudly joined that spot and solidified my career, so thank you. Box is having me gender bend their own OC, so yeah, that'll count for Rule 63. And Jumpit commissioned me for an RPG character that I had to Google, which for me, admittedly, is most RPG characters, but whatever on earth Roxas is sure counts, so we've got a new slot covered. If you want to help me earn 100% gamer completion on the bingo, you can sign up for one of the drawing tiers on my Patreon. It really, really helps support the channel. But seriously, I love doing these videos. Let me know if you've got any thoughts on all of this. I still read every single comment I get. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. And go get your heart broken. It's good for you.